Hi everyone, I'm Mel and I'm here in Southern California with my great aunt Ginny.
Well, I'm 90 years old, and so when I went to school, it was a long, long time ago, and things were completely different. So I hope that you'll find it interesting to see the difference between school then and school now.
I know your birthday is January 6th, but what year were you born?
1929.
Wow. So you were in high school in the 1940s?
Hmm.
Wow. What would be like a typical school lunch?
It was typical food like they would have now. I mean, we would have grilled cheese sandwiches or spaghetti.
Did students typically think the food wasn't very good?
Right, yes,
So same sort of
right.
thoughts
A
on.
lot of it got thrown away.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
I know that today we normally only have pizza.
Chicago is kind of known for their pizza places, but in that time, it was just sort of starting, and they would have a few pizzerias, but not very many.
Oh, wow.
Going to a pizzeria was kind of different. I mean, it was a different place to go to eat something. Now, there's a place in Temecula that sells deep dish Chicago pizza, and it's typically a Chicago dish, but they just didn't have that then.
Today, social media is it's a very big part of school life. What was the main way that you communicated with people outside of class?
Oh, just friends getting together. Like today, everybody had a best friend. I belonged with a group of girls. I think there were 7 of us, but there were probably 3 of us that were really good friends.
Yeah.
Like all best friends, you tell each other what's bothering you, what makes you happy, who you're seeing. But that's the only way that we could transport our thoughts to one another.
Right.
It was just to get together and talk. And I really think that's a good thing. I
Yeah.
don't think it's good to let the whole world know every single thing that you're doing and eating and where you're going and everything.
Did you have a lot of cases of kids being really disrespectful towards teachers or
No.
anything like that?
No, a teacher to us was almost like a policeman. I mean, not that they are like a policeman, but you respected them. There was always a couple of boys who would have a smart mouth, but ordinarily everybody was pretty orderly. When all the kids would come into the classroom to sit down and chat before the teacher came in, we would all be talking and everything. But then the teacher comes in and everyone would get quiet, very respectful. We wanted the teacher to like us. We didn't want the teacher to think that we were being disrespectful. So we were respectful.
What are some of the things that you think might have changed the most since you went to school?
Well, I think that we went through a period of the me generation, thinking only of ourselves and to heck with what everyone else thinks. I'm myself, I'm going to do whatever I want to do. We were indulged too much. And I think that was the beginning. Things were so different then than they are now. And it was a gradual change.
Yeah.
You know, it wasn't overnight, it was a gradual change.
When you would go out with friends, did you normally walk to go to places, or what was your transportation, bike or?
If we were going to a movie, for instance, we couldn't walk that far, so we would take the trolley bus.
Trolley bus.
Well, a trolley bus is one of those that has the thing that goes up into a trolley. Well, it's hard to explain what it is, but anyway, we would take a bus to go to the movies. If we had a date, and that would be when we were probably 14, 15. The boys didn't have cars. Generally speaking, even on a date, we would have to take public transportation.
So public transportation was a lot more popular back then?
Oh, absolutely. And there was a lot of public transportation. It was always accessible to you, close by. I mean, now, nobody wants to take public transportation.
Yeah.
And on a date, I think kids would think, well, we're going on a bus to get where we're going.
When you went to school, did you live close enough that you could walk there?
I could walk. It was a long walk, but I could, and I did. I used to meet my friends wherever they lived. They would, come out on the street and wait until I got up to them, and then the rest of us would walk on together. We always had a school bus pass. It wasn't a school bus, but it was a regular transportation bus that took us to the school. And of course, in Chicago, it would be very cold in the winter and lots of snow, so it would be very difficult to walk to school. So in the winter, we would have to take the bus. But it was always more fun to walk because you'd talk with your friends on the way to school.
Yeah, seems fun.
And that was fun.
A lot of students nowadays on social media or just talking to friends and stuff, they'll complain about the workload and a lot of stress from school, the schoolwork, and also trying to balance social life. Was that a big problem back then too?
No.
No? Why do you think that is?
When I went to school, we went to school, we studied, we came home, did our homework, and then we were allowed to do whatever we wanted to do. There was no stress put on us. Nowadays, kids are belonging to different clubs. In the summer, they have to go to camp, they have to play soccer, they have to do violin lessons. They have to do a lot of things that probably take up a lot of time and give them stress.
You would never get stressed over a lot of homework or anything
No.
like that? Really?
No, we didn't know what stress was. We didn't have stress. I think we were all pretty happy kids. Another thing, there were no drugs. And I mean really no drugs. Even marijuana was not, that was for entertainers, but none of the kids, they wouldn't even know where to get it. So there was no drugs in my school at all.
And there's also been problems with kids carrying like knives or something into the school.
A lot of boys carried just a pocket knife. It didn't make any difference because they didn't do anything with the knives.
Right.
We didn't have a worry that we were going to have to protect ourselves or defend ourselves against something. And the thought of someone bringing a gun to school, you just never heard of that.
A lot of kids nowadays, if they're bored, they just have their smartphone out and you can surf the internet, go to social media, or play games. You can basically do anything. But how did kids entertain themselves when they didn't have phones?
I don't know. We didn't, if you don't have something, you don't miss it.
Right.
That was the olden days.
Yeah.
No, we didn't have TV. We certainly didn't have cell phones. I don't know, we'd get on the landline, for instance, and talk to each other. We could talk to each other for hours on that. We could call each other on the phone and say, do you want to go to the movies this afternoon?
Right.
Something like that. Now, kids today would feel very deprived to live the way we lived.
Right.
Because they wouldn't have all these gadgets.
I feel like in a lot of ways the internet and video games might be replacing the ability to go outside and play in the streets, and maybe that's one of the reasons why video games and the internet are such big things right now, is because they're missing that part.
I think so. I don't think that kids run out in the morning with their roller skates on the sidewalks.
Not really. Maybe a couple kids.
But see, that was our entertainment growing up. That was what we did. We all had a scooter before we were old enough to have a bicycle.
Yeah.
And when we had a bike, we'd all get together and we'd ride bikes.
So it was a much more active lifestyle, you think?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. We were out in the sunshine, in the air. It was, the only way I can describe it was wholesome. It was really wholesome. It sounds like maybe I'm remembering this wrong, but we were happy kids, just playing.
Back then, were girls allowed to wear makeup to school?
No, we were not. And the other thing we were not allowed to wear to school was pants.
Oh, really?
We had to wear skirts.
Were they uniform skirts?
No.
Or just
No.
any skirt?
Just any skirt, just so it was a skirt. But knowing high school girls, it was sort of a uniform. We all wore sort of the same thing. So
Yeah.
in the winter when it was really cold, we would wear like sweatpants under our skirts until we got to school, and then we'd take those off. We all had lockers. Everybody had a locker. And we would put our boots and our jackets and our long pants in our lockers. And then when we went home, and it was still, of course, cold, so we put the pants back on and our boots and everything. But you had to wear skirts. We could not wear jeans to school. Even the boys could not wear jeans.
So what did the boys wear?
They wore cords.
Cords.
Yeah, corduroy pants.
And how about teachers? Did they have to dress less casually and more professionally?
Well, they could dress casually, but they had to wear skirts.
Oh, really?
And no jeans. What would we do now without jeans?
Yeah. When I was in elementary school, I think younger elementary school, we would have like an assembly, and there was the Pledge of Allegiance and I think announcements and stuff.
Well, in high school, we used to have assemblies. Everybody would gather at a certain time of the day, and they would make announcements and everything. But I don't think at the assemblies that we did the Pledge of Allegiance, but your first period class, we always did.
I see.
And nobody even thought about not doing it. I mean,
Yeah.
we just did it. I think in those days, everybody was more patriotic. We loved our country, and to not stand during the national anthem or to not put your hand over your heart and say the Pledge of Allegiance was unheard of. You would just do it. You didn't think twice about it.
What are some of your favorite memories from back then?
The thing that I liked most about it is that we weren't afraid to go places by ourselves. In the summer when we were not in school, we would go out, we'd play outside. We had our roller skates or our scooters or whatever. We played all day outside. At night, our parents would always say, just be home when the street lights go on. That was our curfew. That was when to come home. As a teenager, I lived it was in Chicago, but it was the suburbs, sort of. And in order to get into downtown Chicago, you had to take a bus and a streetcar. We were not afraid to do that, even at night. We would go into the city. You absolutely would not do that now. We didn't have the crime against children when I was growing up. I don't remember being afraid to be out on the street, that somebody was going to come up and accost me.
Yeah.
It never even crossed my mind. Our parents were not afraid for us. They knew that we would be okay. I enjoyed living in the city because I could go places in there, enjoy the city, come back home. It was just a different life. Now I think young people are very much aware that there's danger around them, and they take precautions, and parents, of course, are very aware that something could happen to their child, and so they're restricted from doing certain things. But it was more open. I mean, we were allowed to be a kid and have fun and not be afraid, because a kid should not be afraid. You should be allowed to have a happy childhood. And I did. You know, I belonged to this group of girls. I think there were 6 or 7. 2 of us went around with a group of boys. They had a little club. They called themselves the Bontons. I don't know where that came from. But anyway, the Bontons were not the super cool guys or the nerds. They were sort of the in-between guys.
Okay.
These boys would organize picnics. We'd go to Lake Michigan. We would go to dances. They would do that sort of thing all together. And that was really fun. I enjoyed high school. Unfortunately, my dad, who worked for the Burroughs Corporation, was transferred from Chicago to Rockford, Illinois, which was about 90 miles away. And so they took me out of high school. I had 1 semester left, which is a terrible time to take your kid out of high school. I was the new girl Nobody wanted to make friends with me. I did not make any friends in school at all there. In fact, in order to get a diploma, you had to go to a school for 1 year. I went for 6 months in the school in Rockford. What they had to do was transfer all of my records back to my Chicago school, and then I could graduate from that school, which is what I did when I got to graduate with my friends. And then I got a job at the newspaper, and I loved it. And then I was happy, and then my parents decided to move to California. End of story.
So I guess a lot has changed then.
A lot has changed. And I don't see it ever changing back the other way. I think we've come too far in this direction to ever go back to a simple life. Before all of this technology, our lives were simple. So along with the technology, it can be for good or it can be for bad. It can be a stressful thing or it can be a happy thing. But it's different.